So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your Empire Masterclass. As we continue this amazing series, it's incredible to think that, I don't even know, what is the date today? The 17th, is it? No, the 19th, there you go. Okay, I don't even know the date. 19th of September. We're well into spring. We're on the other side. For those of you that are in Sydney, it's very hot at the moment. Melbourne's having some great weather as well. So it's always great when you sort of enter this September, bit of spring in the air, flowers, racing. I love my horse racing. So it's all fantastic with our weather on the other side, which is out of winter and into spring and nearly into summer, which is fantastic. Now, for those of you that are joining us for the first time, welcome. My name's Paul Jantz. We're here thanks to Professional Partners Education, our educational platform for the accounting industry, and our wonderful supporters, our sponsors, Hall Chadwick, Profit Master, Global Outsourcing, iKeep, and Lloyd's Auctions. Now, for those of you that are joining us, I know there's quite a few here with your teams in your boardrooms as well, which is awesome. So if you're joining us for the first time again, welcome. I've had the pleasure of being with one of our sponsors, Profit Master. I've literally just come back from Manila on Sunday. They had a wonderful 3-day conference over there with a host of accounting firms and some great speakers. It really was an outstanding few days over there. So it's great to be back here and sharing all of this with you. Now, again, PPE or Professional Partners Education, let me quickly share a little bit about that. It's a content platform, an educational content platform built for you guys as our accounting network, our accounting community. So to all of you that have got team members or yourselves, depending if you're a sole practitioner, all of this content is pretty well built for you guys, okay? So I run 2 shows each month. So our live shows, this is one, our masterclass, where we talk about everything that's probably, let's call it non-technical. So today we're talking about sales techniques. And then on the second Tuesday of every month, I also run a lunch and learn. Our last one was a morning tea and learn, but usually that's our practical technical session. So if you want to know anything about our content in the past, we've been doing this, it's our 2nd year. So please go to YouTube, type in Professional Partners Education, up will pop up PPE TV, and it's there all free for you to use. Okay, it's fantastic content with some great guests talking about some amazing topics. Now, given my experience, for those of you that don't know a little bit about me, I've been in the industry for probably 24 years. I've been coaching, I've been mentoring a lot of different accounting firms around the globe, which has been fantastic and great for me. Obviously, been in the Philippines last week as well, and you talk to a few firms over in the Philippines, and there's similar issues that are striking everybody, whether it's people, obviously getting in work, having the people to complete the work, increasing our productivity. I know there was a lot of chatter last week that spoke about, we're still sitting at, and it's hard to believe because 20 years ago, I think we were sitting at around 55 to 60% of recoverable time put on clock. And you know what? Last week's discussion at the conference was still around 53%, which staggers me that we haven't been able to increase our productivity levels, which then increases our profitability. So they're things that I think in the future we're going to address as well about how to actually get that recoverable time up. But the great thing about this is, as we coach firms around the globe, I always had questions about how do I increase my growth? Company that I founded, GPL, the G was for growth. And it was all about, again, whether you're growing your top line or growing your bottom line. Most firms that I met along the way always wanted to grow their top line. So that was about increasing new customers, finding the type of customer that you wanted to bring into the business. And I suppose we can call it, our topic is mastering sales techniques. So that's going to be the topic that we're going to roll through today, probably in the next 55 minutes or so. So we're going to share with you some amazing content. So this has been recorded, so you'll have the ability to go back and have a look at this as well, but get out some pads, get out some pens. If you're old school like me, I still like my pad and my pen, or if you're typing away, that's okay as well. Because what we're going to cover is a whole host of things, from how to create your avatar, or what does your ideal client look like, down to even things where, what do you do when you get ghosted by people? You've done a fantastic presentation and then you've followed up once and then bang, you hear nothing. So we're going to go through that in a lot of detail. So we hope you enjoy the next 55 minutes or so. There will be questions available as well. If you want to tap anything into the Q&A, I'll be monitoring that throughout the next 55 minutes as well. So if you've got questions for our special guest, please make sure you drop them into the Q&A. Okay, let's get into this. Let me introduce you to our guest speaker of today's masterclass. Look, it's been an interesting journey as I've watched this lady develop, I suppose. I got introduced to Brittany by Danielle, who worked with us. You guys will probably know Danielle quite well. And look, let me just read a couple of things that what she's obviously a new mum. So she's got a 4-month-old, which we might quickly talk about because I'm sure she's a proud mum. She's an author. She's a stunt woman. We'll talk about that in a second as well. Plus a speaker, an author, everything to do with, let's call it, firing up your sales. So how's that for an intro, Brittany? Brittany Baldwin, welcome to our masterclass.
A woman of many trades, it would seem. Mum is definitely the newest title I've been given. So I am a very proud mum. She was born on Mother's Day of all days. So that was the perfect gift, I guess, for this year. So very happy. She's a little angel. She's a dream. And it's allowed me, I guess, because I've got a good baby, to still marry up being able to do some work, have some mum time, some baby time, but it gives me so much pleasure to be here today with you. Thanks for having me.
It is our absolute pleasure. And look, I'm looking forward to you sharing. I know, sort of this accounting industry that I've been in for so long, it is something that people, there was even a presentation last week in Manila again about how not to sell and get your clients to buy, which again is a very different technique. So and a shout out to Warwick Cabell. He presented really well last week and firms were really interested in this. So I can understand that that's why we've got so many people joining us today. Before we get into that a little bit though, tell us a little bit about you, this stunt woman business. And before, I'm assuming you're just not doing that while you're a mum. So tell me about the stunt woman and then tell us a little bit more about you and your journey so far.
Well, assume away, but I have actually done 4 stunt days since I've given birth. So,
no.
yes. So just last week, I was being dragged by a giant spider through a tunnel. So I'd love to say that just because I'm a mum, I've given up on stunt work, but it is definitely not true. My whole family has been involved in the film industry for my entire life, and their biggest piece of advice when I was leaving school, a bit of an academic, they said, Brittany, do not join the film industry. And I said, okay, great. I'm going to become an accountant. My now husband studied commerce, so we went to uni together. I followed in his footsteps, so in love. And we both did accounting together. And I started my career as an accountant, specialized in audit, very sexy.
Wow.
But a really good opportunity came along to do some film work. And I said, you know what? I was born for this. I did become a stunt woman. I set up an agency to represent all of the stunt performers in Queensland. It was ludicrous. It was fantastic. I traveled the world doing stunts, found a love for travel, got married, all of those things, and then had to go and get a real job because, like my parents warned me, it's not sustainable. So I landed myself in sales. The closest thing I'd ever come to selling was a pair of shoes on eBay. Fast forward 3 years, I'd made record sales of 115 million. I was on the executive committee, blah, 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 blah. Had a health scare. So decided that was the time for me to set up my own business, work for myself. And now I help businesses and salespeople all over the world to have a bit more confidence when it comes to selling, put some processes in place. And, I have a background in accounting, so this is the perfect forum.
Well, there you go. See, things that I found out, but there's also things that I didn't know. So start as an auditor, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you do carry the famous Baldwin name as well, and you mentioned film industry. Any relation?
No, I don't shoot people on set. Stop it.
Not allowed to say that. This has been recorded.
Oh, sorry. No relation.
No relation. That's all right, though. It's interesting when you do carry that, though. All right. So let's get into mastering sales techniques, which is always an interesting topic, I suppose, for anybody, whether you're an accountant or whether you're a financial advisor. We obviously carry in that professional services industry. There's always people that find, let's call it selling, a little bit easier than others, but it is a tough one. So what's our starting point? Where do we start?
We start with who do we want to work with?
Okay, good.
And yeah, look, I find that this is something that I hear a lot, okay? everybody needs what I have to offer. You know, I'm an accountant, a business. If you're a business, you need an accountant. So like, you know, anyone out there. And we do need to get a little bit more specific. If I could use the example, there's 8 billion people almost in the world. Not everybody with a pulse is your client. You just want a small percentage of them. You cannot handle more than a small percentage of those people. So I find that if you're marketing to everybody, you end up selling to nobody. You do have to refine your message and be a little bit more specific. So if you were selling shoes, for example, yes, you could say everybody that has feet is my client, right? But we need to get a little bit more specific and say, okay, well, are we going to focus on athletes? And within that athlete range, would we focus on runners or hikers or pole vaulters? And that way you can design your product to be very specific to one group of people who are going to respond to the message that you're sharing. So my number one tip, I guess, when it comes to prospecting or finding that person you want to work with, start to think about certain industries, or start to think about a size of the business in terms of revenue or number of employees. Maybe there are physical locations. So, you know, a lot of people prefer to do face-to-face business. So if they're nearby, you can meet them. Everybody will also have their best clients, the ones that are most profitable or easy to deal with. So do a bit of analyzing, find out where did they come from. And if they get networking or referrals or whatever, go and seek out more of that person and ask your existing clients, if they've had good experiences with you, ask them to introduce you to another person like them. So there's a few different ways, but you do have to sort of get a bit more decisive about who you want to work with. You'll attract people outside of that, but it's good. It's a good place. I've got a worksheet that I'm more than happy to share for you to go through a series of questions that you say, okay, well, how do we find those little gems that we're looking for?
Yeah, Green. I think that's sometimes a lot of people go with this scattergun approach, and I'm not just picking out the accounting industry that we work in, but you try that scattergun approach. Look, it works to a certain degree, but then you also start picking up the type of clients you don't want. So I think there's certainly with the work we've done, and I'll share a couple of little things as well, and I'm happy for you to comment on that as well. And as an example, one of the firms that we work with, probably about 3 years ago now, 3.5 years ago, they had just opened up a new division in Melbourne. A new office in Melbourne. One of their key things that they identified was around capacity and what's the best way to identify, again, the target. So to all of you listening, this was really, really important, I think, because we went through a bit of a process, and a bit like what sort of Brittany just said. If you get that worksheet and you work through that, you want to get really clear on who that was. And we identified that the target audience, we wanted to find, call it those high net worth individuals. So I think everyone would love to have high net worth individuals, but we identified, so who are the people that would be in that bracket of high net worth individuals that would be having their own business? So we identified, let's call it dentists, chiros, physios, anyone in that call it that allied health, I suppose. GPs, if they're in that sort of sector, we could target that, because we worked out that they could earn anywhere between $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 a year. They're very good at, again, you talk to other people in this space, they probably don't have a self-managed super fund. So we thought there's a great opportunity there. How can we build their wealth and start talking to them? We did a lot of different targeting marketing around that. And then the idea was then to build a process to then go and approach them. So to help you guys with this, and then I'm sure Brittany, you can comment on this as well. There's a classic example where we went exactly what Brittany said. So that industry, we looked at that, and you're right. Then we went that geographic type of area and said, right, where do we want to target? Now this firm is in St Kilda Road. So we were lucky to target that area, and you'd be amazed how many target audience we found.
I wouldn't be amazed. It doesn't surprise me one bit. It's, you know what, the bar is really low when it comes to prospecting. I know that sounds, quite terrible, but you don't have to do much to exceed expectations. So the thing about accounting firms, similarly with, a couple of other businesses. But accounting firms have become a little bit complacent because they think, oh, well, they came to me last year, they're just going to return to me next year. And if COVID and this cost of living crisis has taught us anything, people are now looking for other options. They're looking for the best price. They're looking for the best service, that warm and fuzzy, we're a more than just a number, we're family kind of thing. So I guess be careful that you can just as easily lose people as you can gain them. So we'll touch on this a little bit later when it comes to follow-up and staying connected, but it's not hard to find people to want to work with you if you follow a few steps, I guess. But It takes work, it takes time, it takes effort. So you do have to be prepared for that as well.
100%. And look, couldn't agree more. And that's probably a nice little segue into, let's talk about networking, or the art of networking, and how to develop those strategic sort of partnerships. I suppose our industry has always sort of relied on, call it financial advisors or finance brokers, where they deal in similar sort of markets with similar sort of people, I suppose, and then the ability to gain those referrals. What's your thoughts on how to, I suppose, the art of networking and learning to develop those strategic partnerships that can lead to referrals? Has any of this changed?
Number one, do networking. Okay. I have been to my fair share of networking events, and I can tell you it's full of the accountants, the lawyers, the mortgage brokers. All of those people do sort of find themselves in that same space. But whether you're good at networking, whether you're not good at networking, the reality is you're in that room and you all have one purpose, is to find out more about the people there, see if you're a good fit, whether it's to do business together or to refer each other. And you often make the promise of saying, okay, well, let's exchange details. Here's my business card. You jot down their email address, maybe connect on social media. And you have the best intentions afterwards to go and reconnect, send them something, have a coffee, whatever it is. What usually happens typically is nothing. Work, life, business, children, everything gets in the way. And that business card that you had, it gets lost in that top drawer, never to see the light of day again. So first of all, I would suggest having a CRM in place if you don't already. If you're going to use that CRM, do it properly, enter some notes in about that person you met. But the best thing about it is that you can create tasks to remind you. So don't rely on yourself to remember, because like we said, there's a lot of distractions out there. So have a CRM is important. The second thing I would suggest would be to give to get. Okay. A lot of people just say, oh, well, we're going to be strategic partners, so like send people your way. If you can send qualified people, qualified clients to somebody, then they are more likely to reciprocate back to you. I find that offering an incentive is always very helpful, and it doesn't have to be money-based, not at all, but they want to feel valued, because if they're forming a relationship with you as an accountant, they're probably doing it with another accountant. So why would they go to you over somebody else? Well, hey, if you give them a little something cream on the top, then they might feel more inclined to send people your way. So don't just forget about them, like stay in contact. And it's not just, hey, have you got any business for me? Create a template for them if you want to make it easy for them to refer. So if you can say, hey, can you say this about me or about my business when you send something, when you introduce us together, that would be great. And also make sure you're doing this or asking for introductions or referrals right after they've had a good experience with you. They're more likely to say, hey, you're worth doing business with.
So true. How important, you mentioned when someone has a really good experience, and I know most of us now go to Google and we look at Google reviews, those sorts of things. How important is that? Is that still fairly important? Do people still look at that?
Yes, they do, but it depends on the client. Everybody has a different approach to doing business. So, some people would look at LinkedIn and others will look at Facebook, or some people go to a website, or other people just prefer to pick up the phone. So it really depends on the buying style of the client. So it's all about having lots of different touch points out there. If you're updating your social media, if you're putting blogs on your website, if you're asking for reviews and getting people to upload them, it all counts. It definitely doesn't work against you, but it really, the eyeballs that will go on it will depend on how people choose to communicate and do their research.
Yeah, good point. And CRM, couldn't agree more. And to all of you guys out there, I'm sure you're using a CRM, but if you're not, for example, we use HubSpot. There's even a free version of HubSpot before you upgrade and have to pay for it. So you can just use call it the marketing section if you want to, and set reminders for yourself. The one thing that I really do, if I really want to connect with someone, I don't leave that networking session without booking a coffee meet. So
hallelujah.
Yeah. So again, we all meet people, whether it be someone you like more than a friend, or sometimes you actually want to do business with that person. And if you feel that you have a good connection, don't be afraid. Just say, hey guys, here's my details. So nowadays you've got these electronic sort of business cards as well. A guy was tapping them. I know Phil, shout out to Phil McIsaac. He was showing people how to tap on the back of your phone, bang, the details go straight into your phone. If that was me as well, and I really wanted to catch up with people, I'd say, hey mate, I'm in Melbourne, I'm in the city, I'm in Collins Street next week. Would you like to have a coffee? How about we lock it in right now? Bang, it's locked in. So by the time you go back, you go to your CRM, you put the details in, you give them a call, 2 or 3 weeks have gone. Grab the opportunity while it's hot. That's what I think anyway. And I believe that it's there for everybody's taking, because that's what you're there for. You're there to network.
Not hard.
All right, let's get to one of these big ones. So let's call it, and this came up last week as well in Manila at the conference. So let's talk about the mastering, or how to ask the right questions. So if we're looking at how to master the skill of asking the right sort of questions, identifying valuable opportunities, and keep that conversation, let's call it naturally and engaging, because that's as opposed to being too salesy. How do we keep that natural and engaging?
Questions are the foundation of having good conversations and identifying those opportunities. And in a nutshell, qualification is asking questions to identify if there's an opportunity, if they're a good fit, if they're likely to want to do business with you. So generally speaking, the more qualified a prospect is or a client is, the more likely they are to say yes. The increased, ROI. It also shortens the sales cycle as well, and you're going to have an improved close rate. Okay, so those ones who you've worked your way through to find out all of these key pieces of information help you when it comes time to deliver your pitch, your presentation, when you get to talk. So I always like to say that the start of a conversation is where you ask the questions, they tell you the answers because they want to share. They can't help it. They will answer your questions. So you then extract this information that you can use later on in the conversation. So it's important to note, first and foremost, that you can have a series of questions that you jot down. I think that's super important, but you want the conversation to still flow rather than be an interrogation. So just sprinkle them in as part of that conversation. My go-to technique for finding the right questions is to use what I call the CHAMP method, CHAMP. So CH stands for challenges. Everybody has challenges. They want you to they want to marry up with somebody who's going to solve their problems. So if you have the right solution for them, then that's a good fit. So I've got all of the CHAMP questions that I can share with everybody as well after this, by the way, to give you some ideas. So I'm not going to go into which questions to ask. Look at the worksheet, but start with CH for challenges. A is for authority. You need to make sure you're dealing with the decision maker. There is no point in investing a whole heap of time and asking all the questions of somebody who does not have the power to say yes. So A for authority. I've given you some examples on how to find out if the person you're dealing with is the sole decision maker or if there's others going to be involved as well. M, money. Do they have a budget? And does that align with the cost of your services? It's important to find this out because, again, you could go through the whole process and at the end realize that you are like chalk and cheese apart from being a good fit for each other. So I know a lot of businesses that will send, have the discovery questions, have a whole meeting, and then say, we'll send you a proposal. If you haven't identified what sort of budget they have and you're a mile off, the chances of you getting that over the line, once they open it in their emails, they see the price, you then have lost the ability to find out their response to it, try and overcome that price objection because they've just opened your email and they're like, oh yeah, no. And then they ghost you. So we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
And P is for priority. In other words, what is their time frame? Is this urgent? Are they sort of just having a little bit of a look around? So the ones who need something sooner rather than later are going to be more hot leads than not. So prioritize, focus your attention on those people who want to make a move or need work done sooner rather than later.
So well said there. If I can just go back, unfortunately, I was hoping to write something and I don't have a pen and pad in front of me, but CH is for challenge.
Challenge.
A is for authority.
Authority.
M is for money.
Money.
This one's a really, really important one because I agree with exactly what you said there. And I think a lot of companies fall down in there's great engagement, there's great communication, you feel like there's a good connection, and then it goes to, are you okay if I send you a proposal? I'll get that to you tomorrow. Would that be okay? So again, you're getting permission. Now, you can send the proposal, but one of the key things, and I think that you mentioned it just then, Brittany, was you actually said, have you got a budget in mind? Do you have a budget for this? Is it $5,000 or is it $50,000? Because you're right, they will open up like we all have, because we've all been sold things and we get a proposal and then you open it up and you go, holy shite, that's $25,000. My budget was $5,000 and this is $25,000. You're right.
It's everybody's time.
Yeah. And the other key thing that you mentioned as well, apart from P being priority, and you know, again, another great question, and I'm sure you've got these covered. What's the time frame? When would you like to move forward? Is always a great, you know, in terms of priority. Is it, oh no, I'm not looking at this until 2025. You go, right, okay, bang, we'll shelf that. Or yeah, I'd like to get this going in the next 30 days. Okay, we can ramp this up a little bit. The other key thing, which I know a lot of people, I know I've said this to a lot of people in the past, decision makers. Now, again, and I know we're going to get to objections soon, and it's the old, oh, I need to check with my business partner. Oh, I need to chat to my wife. Oh, I need to, they're all little roadblocks, which again, we're going to come to very, very soon in terms of dealing with objections. Is there any harm, in your opinion, in asking up front, are you the decision maker? Are you the sole decision maker? Or should we be meeting with your wife or your husband or your partner as well? Do you feel it's okay to ask that question?
I do. And you'll feel out the conversation. It's not the first question you lead with. Okay. So, you know, you might say, apart from you, is there anybody else involved in making this decision? Okay. So really simple. I heard someone explain it really, really, really well to me once. They said, imagine you're watching a movie. Okay. So imagine you're watching Avatar, right? And your partner comes in halfway through. Okay. If your partner was to give you a bit of a, this is what happened in the first part, there is absolutely no way they could do the first half of Avatar justice with whatever words come out of their mouth. They have to experience it for themselves. So it is so important for that second person to be in the room to hear what you have to say, because secondhand information is not very powerful. So gauge the conversation. You'll know if it feels right to ask that, but I've given, I don't know, 10 or so different ways around how you can ask that question directly or less directly, if you will, but it is important to find that out.
Yeah, I'd agree 100% on that one, because you'll find that a lot of our firms, whether we're talking tax, there's obviously different layers of tax, and I'm certainly not an accountant, so I'm not going to go into the different layers, but you guys online would know the different complexities that are involved. Then you've got the advisory side. So if there are those conversations that you're having with clients about what's keeping you awake at night, 9 times out of 10, it's probably money. So you've got the ability to have that conversation. But I'll guarantee you what Brittany just said then is, if you're sitting with the wife and the wife has to go and explain that to the husband, they will struggle to do that. So again,
they sell your business as well as you can.
Yeah, 100%. And we all take information in differently. I'm a very visual person, so other people are auditory. So there's all sorts of different ways that people are going to take in information as well. Isn't that right?
Totally agree.
Yeah, which is great. So think about those sorts of things when you're going through this. And the great part about this is, if you're doing this, and I'm sure all of you are putting yourself in that situation to have these conversations, is do the debrief afterwards as well. What did I do right? What can I improve in? I used to do that with team members. We'd go into a meeting, and it would be a part of a training process that we would do. And I'd say to the team member, Your role is to sit there, take notes, and straight after this meeting, let's discuss what we did right and what we did wrong. The next meeting, we're going to switch roles. And I'm going to sit back and say nothing, and I'm going to take notes, and I'm going to let you lead. So don't think that these types of, we're going to, we're going to talk about the power of language in a second, but the language you use, you're only going to get better. And like anything in life, the more we do, the better we'll get.
Oh,
so,
my favorite. Yeah. Confidence model, that little loop.
100%. And that's the great part about the debriefing and telling, there's, again, not right or wrong. It's how can we improve? And that alone is so powerful. Let's talk about the power of language. We all know language can either win or lose an opportunity. What do we say? What sort of language do we avoid? Obviously, it's important that we, things like building trust is really important. People know, or we know, that people buy from people that they like. What can you share?
You are so right that words are very powerful, and they can create emotions, good or bad, within people, and people do buy based on emotion, and then they justify with logic afterwards. So what you want to do is you don't want to be too slick, too polished, too anything like that, because they can smell salespeople a mile away, right? So they want it to be genuine, they want it to be authentic, they want to be able to relate to you as well. So this is all about having a conversation with somebody. Your intention, your objective is not to sell. It's all about having a conversation, asking the questions, seeing if they're a good fit, moving them one step closer to a decision, etc., etc. So I've got a few examples of words that we should use and a few examples of words that we should not use. So I'm going to start with the word imagine. Imagine's a bit of an interesting one because it creates an optimistic mindset. So it's all about this opportunity that people see. So when you say imagine, they start to feel like, imagine what it feels like when you're in Hawaii drinking your cocktail with the little, umbrella in the pool. That's how I sell holidays to my husband, by the way. I don't say, hey, hon, I think we should go on a holiday. I go, imagine what it feels like when we come back and we're all tans and everyone's pale. Like, imagine that sand beneath your feet. All that sort of stuff, right? So you start to paint a picture of what it feels like. Imagine what it feels like when you no longer have that tax problem, or imagine what it feels like when you get everything up to date because, I know that's causing you to lose sleep at night, or imagine what it feels like on the other side of this where you can buy your new car because we've got your books done for the year. Whatever it is, start to paint that lovely picture for them. Other words to use, we, us, together, not all at once, but these are the types of words to sprinkle in your conversation because it's all about inclusivity. You're starting to use language that is assumptive in tone. We're going to work together. The deal's as good as done. So we're all on the same page. We, us, together. Super, super easy to do, by the way. Like, use their name, sprinkle their name out. I know I'm just going to say it. Simple is a word that I really, really, really love. Simple, because everyone wants simple. No one wants hard. Everything's hard. Everything's hard. Everything's hard. I'm going to make it simple. Let's find a simple way for us to achieve X, Y, Z. Or I'm going to hold your hand through this whole process and make it really simple for you to understand. Or I'm going to go through this proposal with you so that we can, identify how to make this simple for you to be able to interpret. Whatever it is, right? Simple is good. And finally, the yes word is now. You need to create a sense of urgency now, today, act now. So like, sign these documents now, or I'm going to send this over to you today, approve them now. It just makes people go, okay, there's a time frame on this, there's a deadline on this, I don't have forever and ever and ever to make a decision. You want to create a sense of urgency for them. Bad words. Are you ready for them? Fee, cost, buy, purchase, price, all of those words imply that there's a cost to doing business with you. It's going to mean money spent, money going out the door, money that is not recoverable. Okay, so this one's a little bit funny to hear it for the first time, but if you can change your language to say investment instead of cost or price or fee, then an investment implies a return. It's coming back to you. So you might say there's an initial investment of $1,000, or you might say that will be a total of investment of 899, whatever it is, but the word investment instead of all of those big money sounding terms. Another no-no word is contract. If you're using the word contract again says, I am tying you down for life. You've got this big document. It's kind of like a 30-year loan. They associate a contract with a house loan. So they're like, no, let me go. So instead of saying contract, say agreement, because agreement implies that we've come to a mutual decision and we both agree with that. And finally, no word, and this is so funny because Paul has used this 3 times because I was looking for it, is the word locked in. And the word locked in feels like your own little personal prison. Okay, so when you say I've locked that time in for you, it just can be achieved a little bit more effectively by saying the word secure. I've secured that time for you, or let me secure 9 a.m. for you because secure is safe.
Brilliant. Can we go back to the words to use? I wish I had the ability to again read.
Do you want me to say it again?
And this is the great thing about this. So to all you guys that are watching this, once it comes out of post-production, it'll go into our YouTube channel, and you've got the ability to take notes if you haven't already taken notes as well, because I think the key thing around that proposal as well, when we're talking about agreement, proposal, whatever, how you do that. I love even your thought process around taking them through it, because you're right. There'll be a number of things there that they'll get this 5-page automated proposal that comes through from, we know it's been, let's say if they're using Practice Ignition as an example, and comes through, the language is different. So taking them through it can be so powerful.
It's really formal. Accountants are formal. So yeah, no, let me guide you through this.
Cool.
Make it easy for you to say yes. Make it easy. Yeah.
Let me guide you through it. Yep. Brilliant. What was the first one you said right at the start?
Imagine.
Imagine. See, I've already forgotten it. Imagine. Again, I love the fact of, and for everyone online, Brittany's about to go to Europe as well. She lands in Venice tomorrow. So imagine, this is how she's selling the holidays to her husband. Imagine what it's going to be like. So, and you're right, everybody in every sales role can actually do that, because you are then putting yourself into that state of mind to go, yeah, imagine what that would feel like or look like or whatever it may be. Brilliant. Any other key things we need to share?
So many things. I know you've got a few more questions for me, so fire them at me.
Okay, so let's talk about, I suppose it's always a really interesting one when, let's call it the follow-up. So, yep, we send out a proposal, follow-up, nurturing potential clients, ensuring sort of probably nothing slips through the cracks. What's your thoughts about that?
This is where the money's left on the table.
Yeah.
Okay, I could calculate hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars from all the people that I say, how many proposals have you sent out? And how many have you followed up? And they just, oh, well, we sent them out, we never heard back from them, so clearly they're not interested. No. I have a hard and fast rule here, and it's called follow up until you get a clear yes or a definite no. Okay, these aren't cold leads, these are warm leads. These are people you've had a conversation with, they know who you are, they know what you have to offer, they've expressed interest, you've sent them something, or they've agreed to have a catch up, whatever it is. So you need to find ways to reconnect with them. When it comes to follow-up, I know it can be a little bit daunting, and it's often daunting because people don't know what to do. So I've got 4 steps to follow today when it comes to following up. Number 1 is to have your desired outcome. What is it that you hope to achieve? And it will be different for every client depending on where they are in the cycle. Your desired outcome might be to get that coffee meeting after a networking event. It might be to follow up on a proposal that you've sent them. It might be to get them to say yes. Whatever your follow-up purpose is, make sure you've got that clearly defined for yourself. Number 2, ask targeted questions. We've established this, but write them down beforehand. Know what exactly it is that you want to ask that's going to help you identify where they're at, what's working for them, what's not working for them, and move them closer to saying yes or no. By the way, no is just as good as a yes, because you know exactly where you stand. You can shaft them aside and focus your attentions on ones who are going to say yes or are more likely to say yes. Number 3 is to anticipate and prepare for likely objections. Okay. And again, I know we're going to touch on objections before our time is up, but objections are often the scariest part of the sales process. So you're going to find the same ones prop up all the time. So anticipate what those ones are going to be and draft your responses to them in advance so that you're not going to be the deer in headlights. They're all the same, by the way. They're all the same most of the time. And number 4 is your call to action, which directly aligns with your desired outcome. Their call to action is to commit to a coffee date. Their call to action is to look through the proposal or say yes or no to the deal.
Yeah, look, look, that's a brilliant 4-step process, and I think I'm gonna bring it back to a couple of things here, because again, being in the accounting industry for so long, build a process. Everything that we've been talking about here, from the start through to just ending the year, right? We're going to get to objections and ghosting pretty soon as well. But this can all be a process. And the one thing that Brittany just mentioned then was around to send the proposal, and you automatically think that people are going to come back to you, and you don't follow up. And that was the key thing that we just mentioned, or the question was around sort of following up and nurturing. You've just got to have, again, if you're using a CRM, you've got the ability for someone to set that automatically for you within 2 days or 3 days or 48 hours or whatever it may be. But you can actually set that as well. So set that as a part of your process, and making sure maybe it's a KPI that goes around for whoever's in charge of growth or sales or whatever it may be. Usually it's the partners that are call it the finders of work. So they're the ones out there doing it. But set yourself as a part of this process, that maybe it's 24 hours that something needs to be followed up. Maybe it's 48 hours, something needs to be followed up, but certainly don't let it go, because as Brittany just mentioned, you are leaving money on the table. And we see this industry do that a lot, just leaving money.
It's actually one of the worst. Do you know that? And it's not hard to fix. It's not hard to fix. So if I could give you one call to action today, go and have a look at the proposals you've sent out and reconnect with those people and say, hey, are you ready? What's preventing you from moving forward? What needs to happen for you to say yes?
Great questions. So what's preventing you from moving forward? What was the second one just then?
What needs to happen for you to say yes?
What needs to happen for you to say yes? So brilliant questions, because I suppose it comes back to whenever we're selling, it's a bit like, I sort of look at it a bit like courting a new friend that you like, you know. But it's the fear of rejection, isn't it? So it's the fear of actually picking up the phone and actually having that conversation or whatever it may be. And then that's most people's fear. And certainly having the work that I've done with firms or the people that I've worked with, I'm scared they're going to say no, you know. And
you know what? Easiest 3-step process for you here. Best case, worst case, most likely. If you follow up someone you've sent a proposal to, best case, they say, oh my goodness, yes, thanks for contacting me. I really do need to make that happen. Yes, let's get started. That's the best case. Worst case, they go, not interested, F you, never speak to me again, and hang up. That's as bad as it gets. They were never your client anyway. They were never going to say yes. Most likely, they're like, okay, yes, look, we're not really quite ready. We haven't really been thinking about it. Tell me a little bit more. Okay. They engage in conversation again. You ask more questions, and it goes from there. So best case, worst case, most likely is the best thing that I can share with you when it comes to fear of rejection. Worst case, they're not your client.
Brilliant, brilliant. So how do we overcome some of the most common objections then and build this into our process, our sales process?
So the thing about objections is that they come up in every sales conversation. So it's not something you've done wrong necessarily. It is part of the process. And I like to think that objections are not rejections. Okay. They're not saying no. They're saying, hold up, I'm not quite ready. I'm a little bit uncertain. I need some more information. They're giving you this opportunity to clarify where they're at. So if they're still engaged, if they're rejecting you, that means they're still willing to have more conversation, and you need to revisit something you may have missed or do it in a different way. So again, the best way to overcome objections is to anticipate which ones they're going to be. So if you're getting the same one all the time, it's too expensive, I'm not quite ready yet. I have to ask my partner, my wife, my business person, all of those sorts of things. They're going to come up regularly. When it comes to dealing with objections, I use the LARC model. You're not writing this down, Paul, so I can repeat it, but LARC. L is for listen. Listen and give your attention. Let them tell you what their real problem is, okay? So allow them to share with you their objection. A is for ask questions. There's a bit of a theme here. When in doubt, ask questions, by the way. Ask questions so that you can get to the real objection, because it's easy to say price, but if you then ask a few more things, so if you were to say something like, aside from price, is there anything else that's stopping you? Then they're like, oh, well, I'm not quite sure. And they start telling you all the other reasons that are wrong with the deal. So ask more questions, A. LAR is for respond. This is where you actually get to share with your client, some ways to overcome that objection. And C is to confirm you've actually satisfied their objections. So it does take a little bit of practice, but if you're going to come up with those same ones, it's too expensive, I'm not ready yet, I have to ask my partner, well, you can actually anticipate and prepare your responses in advance.
Yeah, spot on. And I suppose similar to what we mentioned maybe 10 minutes ago, if you've asked, is there anybody else as a part of the decision-making process, that actually takes one of those out as well.
Yeah, you get ahead of it. You introduce it as part of your, I used to sell high-end retirement homes, okay? So rather than, one of the locations that I managed was a little bit regional. So it was, say, 20 minutes from the hospital. And given that I was dealing with retirees, or mature, more experienced people than I was, I knew that that was something of concern to them as they aged, that they wanted to be close to medical. So rather than them bringing that up to me and sharing this stress and concern and thinking about it the whole time, I introduced it as part of my pitch, put a positive spin on it, and I eliminated the objection completely.
Interesting. That's a great way to do it. So to introduce it, like most of the people that I'd speak to might say X, or this is what most people might actually do, the other people that I deal with. So that's actually very, very clever. So listen, ask, respond, confirm.
Go you.
There's your LARC. Okay, so really important. And I suppose the first one, listen, that's probably such an important one, to ask a question, and to put it blunt, shut up. So ask a question, listen. I suppose sort of one of the things that I've always learned is the art of listening is really important, as opposed to talking, which some people get too carried away with. They talk, and then they go off so far off track, they can't bring themselves.
They talk themselves out of the deal.
Yeah.
And look, I'm a talker. I could talk all day long. So you have to pick your time for talking. That's why the first part is for listening. The second part is for talking. And then you get to the objection handling and closing side of things. So the biggest mistake people make is A, not ask for the sale, followed by, when they do ask for the sale, they continue to talk. That's the time where you say, are you ready to move forward? Or does this sound good to you? Or let's get started on Tuesday. Shh. Let them say yes.
And I've experienced that bit where we used to go out and sort of one sit back and the other looks and observes. Exactly that. We've had people that have said, yes, I want to buy. And then the person selling is still trying to sell. It's like, guys, pick up the single, listen.
It happened to me. I went to build a house 5 or 6 years ago, and I picked my builder, I picked my design. I went up to the display home with my $1,000 cash, okay, to put my deposit down. I took my mum and dad, like you couldn't have had a more motivated buyer. We did a whole tour. We sat down and he started talking. And then he talked some more. In the end, I realized that maybe the inclusions with that house being built wasn't quite enough for the amount of money I was going to spend. So I kept my $1,000 that I left. He literally talked me out of the sale.
Yeah, look, and that's why it's so important that build the process. And I can't sort of emphasize that any more than building the process. And whether you go into the boardroom, I know for years and years and years, I used to take myself into the boardroom, And now we've got things like phones. You can record straight off this. Take yourself into a boardroom and record what you're doing, the process, and then watch yourself back. That's sometimes an interesting process where you can start to listen to the type of language that you would use and whether or not it's good language or you're still using some of that old bad language that Brittany just mentioned before. So they're little things that you can actually do, but I'm a big fan of process. So making sure that you've got the ability to do that and build that in. Let's talk about ghosting. We mentioned this before. So I know people can just go missing. Again, it's an interesting one. How should we react when, we face the common challenge of being ghosted by a potential client? They told us all the right information. We asked all the right questions. They said they wanted a proposal. We've gone down. We've even checked with their budget. Yes, we're in their budget. And then we don't hear from them. What do we do?
Look, in an ideal world, we're dealing with clients who are super responsive. They reply to your email, they answer your phone call, they always make themselves available when you try and reach out. In the real world, however, it's very, very, very common for your clients to go silent on you. And it's at this point that most people give up. They go, okay, well, if they haven't responded, clearly they're not interested. The reality is it's usually them, not you, okay? And I like to think of myself, if I put myself in their shoes, what are they? They're busy, just like you. They've got a lot on their plate, okay? Maybe they're on holidays. I'm about to go away for quite some time. So I can understand if you want to get in contact with me. By the way, I still check my emails. So, and my LinkedIn, watch out, people. You can still reach me, but maybe they're on holidays. Maybe they're sick. Maybe they lost your contact details. Maybe they are shopping other businesses and they're not quite ready they haven't finished doing their research. There's a number of different reasons, so don't take it personally, okay? In saying that, I said we need to follow up until we get a clear yes or a definite no. So we don't give up. We just have to find creative ways to rekindle that conversation. So my first piece of advice here is to not rely on one form of communication. Okay, if you're emailing them and they're not responding to emails, you have to change it up. Pick up the phone, send them a text, start commenting on their social media, like find ways to get in front of them by varying the different forms of communication style. Another thing I would say here is that if you're only ever contacting someone to get something from them, then they're going to start to become a bit scarce. They're going to hide from you. So find ways, instead of saying, let's do business, or look at my proposal, or have you had a chance to, whatever it is, then you want to be saying, hey, I found a really good blog that I thought might be of interest to you, or here's a great link to an event that I think you might want to come to, or some industry news, or recording a personal message to them. You can send voice memos on LinkedIn, or all different ways of doing things. But my point here is send information of value and change your communication style up. Often they'll tell you when you have that very first meeting, when you finish, okay, the next step is whatever, what's the best way to get in contact with you? How do you best communicate? Because my mum is a terrible person on emails, but if you call her, you're 100% chance of having a conversation with her.
Yeah.
They all do it.
And that's a brilliant piece of advice just there, because nowadays, I'll say nowadays, because we're in 2023, soon to go into 2024, but you're right. We've got things like social media, and you're right, we are so busy. But asking that question, so going back to listen and ask as well, what's the best way to communicate moving forward? Would you prefer a text? I know we get it automated nowadays. I always choose a text because then I can read it when I'm in the right frame of mind to read it, as opposed to someone calling me. If someone calls me, I probably won't pick up your call, but if you text me, I'll probably return. So the best way to do, again, is to ask. So as well, you've already got, I call it getting permission up front. Would it be okay if I sent you a text message tomorrow? Would it be okay if I sent you an email tomorrow? Would it be okay if I followed up 48 hours later? They're all just
I would change that up slightly, Paul, and say,
okay,
I'm going to send you a text tomorrow. I'm going to follow up with you tomorrow, because that way they can't say no. You just tell them that's the normal course of business. You act like that's just what happens next.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Even better, as opposed to getting permission. Love it. Love it. Now, look, we're getting up to, how did we get to 12:55? Wow. If you've got any questions, please drop them into the Q&A, because we've probably got through quite a bit. We've got a little bit more to get through, but we certainly have time for questions. So if you've got anything that you would like to ask Brittany, please drop it into the Q&A and we'll get to some questions in a couple of minutes' time. So Brittany, where do people, I know you mentioned LinkedIn, where do people find you? Where can we find those systems processes that you mentioned before as well?
I will send them to you if you want to distribute them to the people who are listening as well. But LinkedIn is my preferred social media. I'm on Facebook as well, but LinkedIn is probably the place that you'll find me most. I also have this little book here, Database to Dollars. The link for that is www.TikToksales, TICKTOCK, not to be confused with one certain app. TikToksales.com.au/book. It's free for anyone who wants to download it. So many tips in there. So again, that'll come through with this recording as well. LinkedIn, website, Facebook, however you want to get in touch with me. My job is to make sure that I respond.
Brilliant. And look, I don't see too many questions coming through, but the key here is you've got resources. So to all of you guys that are online watching this, thinking about, right, how do I build my process? Maybe you've got a process, and how do I improve my process? Again, go into tiktoksales.com.au.
Yeah.
Yep. tiktoksales.com.au. Download the book. Have a look at all the different material that's there, because I know you guys that are listening to this love those bits and pieces where you can sort of get your hands dirty and, right, how do I build that? And every single firm will have a different way of doing it. So think about how you can build this into, let's call it your sales process, which then will have the steps. And I'm sure Brittany's book has got that in there as well, all the different steps that are involved. Get in touch with Brittany if you need to via LinkedIn and have a chat if that's what you need to as well. Just don't do it in the next, how long are you away for?
Oh, 7 weeks.
Oh, 7 weeks.
I know, I'm taking my newborn. This is when they say it's best to travel, but I will be periodically checking. So by all means, my greatest love in life is helping people. That's why I started my business. So if you, if you're doing well and you want that validation, if you're struggling, you need some tips, my job is to make sure that I have really simple skills. Simple sales is what I'm about. I don't want this to be challenging. It's all about reviewing what you're currently doing, finding those little gaps, refining your process, and making it just easy for you to have conversations with clients and move them along the steps, and just say, hey, are we a good fit? It's not about selling.
And I love simple.
That's the outcome if you do it properly.
Yeah, that's right. And simple helps as well to get that confidence up. Like anything, it's about confidence. Got a question here. Will you share your champ questions?
Yes.
Will they be?
Yeah.
Where will they be?
Do you send? Are you able to send information with this, Paul?
Sure.
Yeah. Are you able to send? I can give you a few worksheets, and when this recording goes out to all of the attendees, you can have a few attachments as part of that. If you want me to send it to you, send me your email, and I'll forward the champ questions to you right now.
Cool. So anything can be done there. So I will probably follow up with some champ questions, send out everything, so you guys all online get an update of all the information when it comes through from Brittany. Now, I know you're going away, so I don't know when you can send it through. If you can send it through, I will forward it on. That's probably a little bit easier rather than people. I know you're going away tomorrow, so that might not be great, but
I've got teams working with me as well.
Oh, so, good. Even better then.
Yeah. There's no such thing as too hard on this side of the equation.
Thank you. And look, just a great little masterclass. I can't believe it went so quick, to be honest with you. But again, to all of you guys listening, just brilliant little step-by-step process of how to improve the process, but how to get better outcomes as well. And I love the fact when Brittany said it's a simple process, and I agree. It needs to be simple. It doesn't need to be complicated, but you just need to continually review it and make sure that you're improving to get your ideal outcome. So that's really important. Brittany, thank you. I've taken a fair bit on as well and learnt a lot as well. So I always love learning from our guests. And that's the great thing about this, about how I can actually get out my little screwdriver and tweak what I'm doing. So thank you very much for sharing. Anything final comments you'd like to leave with us?
Go and look at those proposals that you've sent out. Follow up. The fortune is in the follow-up.
Brilliant. So go and look at those proposals that you've sent. Hopefully it's in somewhere where you can just go quickly, follow up. What's the best way to follow up? If they've been out there for ages?
Look, I'd send them something. I would send them something of value and say, hey, it's been a little while since we last spoke. I wouldn't even follow up for the proposal. I would say, hey, last time we spoke, you mentioned, a quick example because we've got 1 minute. I used to sell those retirement houses like I spoke about. We take people through the display homes. Part of my follow-up process, instead of going, hey, have you listed your house for sale yet? Do you want to buy? I would say, last time you were in here, you really liked our display home furniture. I'm actually sending you the Dulux color of the year. It's Tiffany blue. So here's a little inspo board that you can look at when choosing your furniture for your new home.
Imagine what your new home would look like with the Tiffany blue.
Stop. And then they go, oh, I realized you sent me that proposal. Oh, I should look at that. I'm so sorry, I've been busy. Yep. Restart the conversation.
Yeah, we worked with a firm in New South Wales. Again, to all you guys that are listening, we worked in a firm in Sydney that was very proactive in this space, and they used to give their potentials a book. So, and it was the E-Myth. So again, the entrepreneurial myth, Michael Gerber, the great legend that he is. And so again, just something it's tangible that they can actually read. It's an easy read. Even they used to say to them, just read the first 20 pages for me. And again, little things like that, because you can follow up, how'd you go with the book? So there's things that you can do to build a relationship, and they'll remember. They will remember that you gave them something of value, which is fantastic. All right, time to wrap up. To all of you guys online, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure again to bring you another masterclass. Brittany, thank you. Thank you for sharing all of your wisdom, your thoughts, your ideas, your little tips, all of the sheets. I'll get out to all of you guys. Please enjoy the rest of your week, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time, whether it be for our Lunch and Learn, which is on October 10, or my next masterclass. Please enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of your week. Thanks. See you till next time.